Close to 1 million on Amazon since we launched a couple months ago, but if you look at D2C only, since launch we're at about 14.2 million, and we're averaging about 2.5 a month right now. So
What do you think is kind of the difference this time? What do you think has helped you kind of take on that new step? Because we've obviously worked together, but
I spent 2 years of my life building this thing, and all of a sudden it's gone. It's like you give a child up for adoption, you get a check for it. In most cases, your business is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of your beliefs, how you live your life, how you're organized, etc.
I think is the thing that so many brands just actually neglect. And we always say this, like we talked about it internally, like who do we want to attract as someone who works with brand? It's got to be someone who actually has the good product, because at the end of the day, no matter what your offer is, if the product's trash, there will be a ceiling that you'll hit, and then it'll probably just fall off.
We do zero free gifts. I don't believe in free gifts. I believe in product with good value and also good perceived value. Inside the box are where funnels go to die.
Chris, thanks for joining me. We have Chris, the founder of Menerals, on the podcast of Funnel First here. Thanks for joining me. How's things?
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to chop it up about business.
Let's go, let's go. So listen, give us a quick rundown of all of your madness in business. Where did you first start? You're obviously the founder of Menerals at the minute, but was this your sort of first intro into ecom, or where did you get started?
I got started in 2018 with drop shipping. Basically, took L's for 2 years, and then I had a home decor company that took off in 2020 during COVID, and so that was like the first win. I ran that for a couple years. That business got acquired in 2022. Took a year to figure out what to do next. Got into supplements, Sheilagy in 2023. Ran that for about 6 months, 10 months ish, and then wanted a better supply chain. Kind of reverse engineered a better supplement business model. Tried another idea. That one went okay, and then ultimately landed on Menerals. So too many failures to count, and then just an evolution of skills and relationships with good people. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, and you guys have been scaling like crazy. What do you think is kind of the difference this time? What do you think has helped you kind of take on that new step? Because we've obviously worked together, but when we first chatted, I looked at the brand and was like, "Oh, this is madness." The angles are, I think it's to me, it looks like the angles, the way you're kind of getting deep into that avatar is actually insane. So what do you think has kind of been the difference this time that's helped you scale very quick?
that's a good question. Well, one thing I learned selling Sheilagy is the ads that worked the best were ones that I found funny. So I would write them, and they were authentic to my humor and kind of like the way I speak and whatnot. So that was like an early signal that told me, okay, just do write ads that I think are cool, write ads that I find funny, and lean into authenticity, because I feel like in most cases your business is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of your beliefs, how you live your life, how you're organized, etc. It's very much so a mirror, and so um, I would see consistent results with copy that I resonated with, and so that was a huge hint. And so I took that learning and kind of this understanding of product market fit with men and health and supplements, and mirroring the bias in consumer psychology. And so when I had the idea for Minerals, I had already had a little bit of practice selling to guys like myself who talk the same way, and etc. And so what I did is I took all those learnings, polished them as best as I could, set up a really good team from day one. I had a creative team, media buyer, just everybody who I needed help, like just to streamline things I need help with. So everybody was ready day one. Copy and ideas and angles were all ready day one. And so we basically hit the ground running, and it worked. And then just dumped fuel on the fire. But we're also bootstrapped, so we had to balance cash flow. So being able to scale inventory quickly and be profitable and be able to reinvest is not an easy thing. So we leveraged Facebook's credit terms, so we didn't use any credit card for advertising. What we do is we would let's say for simplicity, we run ads in January, we don't have to pay back that ad spend until the end of February. So even if we're breaking even in the first month, we're then second month profitable, and then we basically get our ad spend back, so, and a little bit extra on the second month. And so we then pay Facebook back, and then we have some cash left over to then reinvest in inventory and so on. And so we kind of like built that snowball up, and it compounded, and we just had more and more momentum with extending our cash conversion cycle. We also have a really dialed in supply chain, so our lead time is good. I'm not going to reveal too much, but our lead time is good. Our COGS are good, and then terms with Meta also allow us to just spend more on acquisition without having to worry about floating anything immediately. So that would probably be the biggest contributing factor to how quickly we scaled.
Yeah, that's you don't actually hear many people talking about that. You always hear, oh, they throw it on an Amex and just kind of let the Amex float the spend. So, do you not think,
Yeah,
like, I don't actually know many people that do that. Why do you think that is the case? Why do you think people aren't really understanding that Meta, you can do that with Meta?
I don't think people know that they even can. The other thing is you have to apply. They don't just give it to anybody. You have to uh, do a credit check on your business essentially, and provide financials and basically make sure that you're good to essentially lend money to, because in a way I'm borrowing money from Facebook to run ads, and so there has to be somewhat of a relationship with Facebook and established credibility.
Yeah, I think the key things you could probably take out of that is like finance is so key with ecom brands, and it's so interesting because when we speak to brands, it's they don't think like this. They actually don't, and they just want to throw a random subscription offer and random offers and just scale ad spend. They don't actually look at the finance. So my biggest takeaway from what you just said there is literally supply chain and finance is probably two biggest things I think brands actually neglect. Like you've had stock issues as well. I'm sure you don't mind saying that, and that's
A little
that's
bit.
even yeah a little tiny bit. So it's like even being super dialed in shows you that scale still can bring those kind of problems as well. But what's your kind of take then? You mentioned like first order profitability. Do you have any sort of takes on that? Are you always trying to get first order profitable, or do you always think it's with subscription it kind of needs to be second?
Everybody wants to be first order profitable, and that's a great. That's that's an ideal scenario, but it's not easy to do when we could spend less and be more profitable, but ultimately volume is our goal. So if we were if we wanted to focus on pure profit margin, we'd be a lot smaller. But that's just the nature of the mission here. We want to build a big brand that ultimately has a net positive impact on the supplement market and male health in general. And so, in order to accomplish that mission, we have to be big. And in order to be big, you need a high volume of customers. And so, first order profitability is not the priority. Um, Actually, I don't really think about that. Of course, want to be as close to break even as possible on acquisition, but I look at it like this: CAC can only be zero, but LTV is theoretically infinite. So you have an asymmetrical upside focusing on building the best possible product and the best possible user experience so that they stick around forever. Because if your CAC is $50 and it goes to 100 and that breaks your business, well, your business isn't very good. But let's say your CAC is 200, but your LTV is 2,000. Well, then going from 50 to 100 to $200 CAC doesn't make a difference. It's you wouldn't even notice it. So there's an asymmetrical upside focusing on LTV and customer volume. If your back end is good enough and your product is good enough, then that's where you should put your efforts.
Yeah, and how do you think your thoughts on that have changed from the start though? Because obviously, if you're bootstrapped, brands are starting with less capital. Do you think that they can kind of think in those scenarios, or how's your thoughts kind of changed in that, or how did you guys think about it differently from first month you launched to now? How long have you been running for, by the way?
10 months.
10 months, serious. So, yeah, what how's that sort of changed in your in your mindset, or did it, or did it?
Not really. I mean, I kind of knew what I was getting into. I looked at some of the bigger subscription brands, and the general consensus is these guys float massive CAC with their entire business model banking on LTV. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm likely going to have the same issue. Actually, I'm not sure if I would call it an issue. I'm just going to have face the same reality. And so um, I knew that going into this business. And so I wanted really good margins. So that meant low COGS and good LTV. And so that's kind of been more important than being first order profitable.
Yeah, it's such an interesting way to think about it. Like we work with a lot of subscription brands, and I think yours is very unique in how you've scaled it because so many brands hammer so much first order discount, and they don't realize that like we worked with a brand that had 35% off first order and then gave a free gift and a free gift and a free gift every month. Like, and they don't realize that they just think, oh, this is amazing, our customers get free gifts, but there's cogs with that. Like it's actually baffling sometimes the amount that people don't realize how much that affects the actual profitability down the line, not even now in month one. It's actually month two, three when you're supposed to be even more profitable and you're giving away a free gift at product that costs you 20, $30 cogs.
That doesn't
But,
that's not wise.
yeah, this doesn't logically make sense.
We do zero free gifts. I don't believe in free gifts. I believe in a product with good value and also good perceived value because perceived value is what is able that's what allows you to justify your price. So free gifts are I think overrated if you're a good marketer.
100%. And something you just touched on that I always say is like value stack. Like offer perception is what's going to scale a brand. Obviously, there's a lot more to that, but in most cases, if you're just talking offer perception is what's doing it. And that's something when we first spoke that I noticed massively was like, you've got a really unique way of talking on copy, and you're very big into landing pages, but it's the way you stack offer. And that's probably, I would say, the key reason. How did you kind of learn that along the way? Did you kind of know that straight away from past like ecom experience, or was it people you spoke to?
It was a combination of both. I think everybody probably knows Primal Queen at this point, but their offer $44 a month with a bunch of like free bonuses that don't really cost anything cog wise, but increase perceived value. That's honestly what I modeled after. 44 bucks a month for a supplement subscription that will make your life better. I feel like um, it seemed like a no brainer. So that's what we ran with and had a decoy price, of course, of one time purchase for the people who want to buy one time. That's fine, but you ideally want to get as many subscribers as possible. Um, but decoy price is necessary because you have to like you go to the movie theater, you have like the everybody's seen that like the small, medium, large. The medium is like 20 cents cheaper than the large, so you might as well get the large or something like that. So yeah, just modeled it after what clearly works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The three options every single time. Yeah, love that, love that. In terms of then, what do you think? What's your thoughts on then creative? Like, how much creative are you kind of pumping out a month now? Because I know that's been a big focus for you. And how has that kind of affected the scale of the brand? Because I was at a talk in Miami, and the guy got advice off one of the biggest people here in ecom. I'll not say his name, but he said to him, don't come back and speak to me unless you run 800 creatives next month. But he was running like 80 and he couldn't get up to 800, and the whole concept was just triple your output. Do you have a sort of a thought process on like quantity versus quality of creative? Because I know that's a big talking point in the industry at the minute.
You have to find a balance of both. Ultimately, quantity is what allows you to test ideas fast. So we run, I think our ad library probably has 250 right now. Like it's decent. It's nothing like insane, but it's also more than most brands run, and it's what has helped us grow quickly. I mean, we can just test lots of ideas very quickly, iterate on ideas very quickly. So it's necessary to have volume because if you don't have volume, you're not going to know what works and what doesn't. We also can't make slop either. There has to be like people think changing I don't know a plant in the background of a video is going to impact the conversion. It's not. You need to have you got to think through what you're selling and how you're selling it, and the science behind it. I mean, changing a plant, you hear like people say test everything or wear a hat. No, no, you need. What's your big idea, and how many new ways can you talk about it?
Change your t-shirt. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think the biggest learning I took from being anywhere close to your thought process was how deep you knew the avatar and how many different personas you went into. And I think that's such a unique thing that people are only really realizing now, that you need to be genuinely trying to go funnel specific. So if you take it back to the start, how did you scale that up then? Did you go for just one base avatar and then start to get really dialed in? Or how did you kind of see that the biggest unlocks from when you started running that, the landers that started to really work, and also matching that with the creative angles?
I didn't start with an avatar in mind. I truly started with myself in mind because I wrote copy for me, and then that's kind of what set the tone for everything going forward. So the first breakout period was when I would say it's about a month in, right? I wanted to, I kind of had like a half-ass landing page. I was just wanted to get just the ball rolling, and then okay, 1 month later, I after like confirming, okay, people want this, people are going to buy this, I can invest more time and effort because like you test an idea, like you build a brand, you kind of like okay, let's put it out there, see what happens, see if it works. If it doesn't work, okay, no worries. But if it works, okay, let's double, triple, quadruple down. And so a month in, I wrote this landing page specifically for me and like my humor and my biases and whatnot. And so as soon as I did that, we also launched a ton of ad creative that congruently matched that. And then basically from there is when we did, like vertical scale. So we doubled every single month for like 4 months in a row. And yeah,
It's been absolutely insane to watch. And what, in terms of then, the scale of the brand, what's some of the biggest lessons you've taken from that? Because obviously, I mean, you've kind of done this before, but what do you think's the biggest lessons you've taken from this one versus all the other sort of brands you've been involved with? More as you scaled.
um, your team, it's a team effort. Honestly, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have scaled this quickly just by myself. It is genuinely team effort, and you have to. People always talk about A players, but it's true. I mean, A players are expensive, but there's a positive return on that investment. So, moving really quickly, looking at data, looking at stuff going on in the back end, Facebook, whatever, maybe LTV, um, testing quickly, moving quickly, having your entire team aligned on what the goal is and how we're trying to get there. And so, um, more brains on one mission, I feel like just make things run faster and better. That's probably the biggest takeaway. I mean, there's probably 100 takeaways I could talk about, but that's probably the big one. It's a group effort.
Yeah, yeah. I was just interviewing Maddie Martin from Cadence, and that's exactly what they've done. And they brought on creative strategist and kind of like all around performance marketer, and that's what has helped them scale as well. So he talks about that and just not being afraid to obviously bring in that cost. But again, for every business owner, myself or brand owners, it is a scary thing. But again, every single time someone says it, or single time someone scaled a business, it's exactly what they all say. So it just proves how important everyone is. Do you know what I mean? But I think one thing I've also found really interesting is how you stack value of offer. So you talk a lot about price, but also then the benefits. Do you find like how do you kind of find that balance? Because not everyone's going to kind of latch on to a discount, or not everyone's going to latch on to the offer in that way. So how do you try and find that balance? Do you have any like kind of thought process you have when you're creating those sort of offers?
Discounts are probably the last thing I think about. Um, I think in order to make an offer really, really desirable, you have to know your product inside and out. You have to know it better than anybody. And if you know your product better than anybody, then you can find ways to talk about it. You can find pieces about it that are special. and those special pieces are what bring value to the customer, whether it's novelty or it's benefit or it's efficiency or peace of mind or safety. Because like our product is it's a 100% American product, and you look at most supplements on the market, they are synthetic, they're grown, they're easily made in a lab versus minerals can only be found in the earth. Now, you can't grow, there aren't magnesium plants you can put in your backyard and go farm magnesium. So you have to find the story uh, about what story can you tell about your product that nobody else can tell, and then where do you find value in between the lines of that? Um, and most products suck. Most people can't do that because their products are white labeled shit that anybody else can get. There's no thought, there's no innovation, there's no effort, right? We spend a lot of time making a product that cannot really be replicated. Of course, in theory you could, but it's really hard. Um, it's a special product, and we have a unique story, and that's what's helped us. So, you look at most supplement brands. There's nothing special about it, and that's the market will reward value fairly. So whatever you bring to the market, people are either going to pay for it and they're going to buy it or they're not. So it's not up to you whether you can't force somebody to buy something that has been sold a million times. You go to Amazon, you look at creatine gummies. Well, how do you differentiate a creatine gummy? It's sugar and jelly and maybe a sprinkle of creatine, and so there's no moat there. So you got to find your moat. You got to know your product better than anybody. And if you build a half-assed product, well, you're going to get half-assed results. It probably took a year of product evolution and R&D because we started with Shilajit. Well, what gives Shilajit its power? It's fulvic acid. Okay, cool. Well, then how do we make fulvic acid in America and not overseas? Okay, then how do we bring other minerals, American minerals, into the same product? So you got to build a good product. Number one. Number two, you got to know it better than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, mic drop. The product, honestly, I think is the thing that so many brands just actually neglect. And we always say this, like we talked about it internally, like who do we want to attract as someone who works with brand? It's got to be someone who actually has the good product because at the end of the day, no matter what your offer is, if the product's trash, there will be a ceiling that you'll hit and then it'll probably just fall off. And I think products like the literal number one scaler no matter what you have. Like, for example, you just said there you don't believe in the free gifts. You're doing a subscription offer. Obviously, there's value stacking and talking about the benefits and minerals and whatever else. But product is number one. Do you know? That is the key thing I think everyone can kind of take out of that. But even just coming off the back of that, are you kind of planning to release any other new products, or what's your sort of goals with that?
Yeah, we will. Like I said, most supplements aren't good. Most people, this isn't meant to be a diss. It's just a fact. Most brand owners are lazy and they don't have a good product. There's a small percentage that have a product that they have built and evolved and spent time and effort and resources and energy and all these things to build something that nobody else can replicate. And so, for those that build something good, I mean, they say build it and the world will come. Well, that's partially true. I mean, you got to build a good product, and if you know how to talk about it, then the world will come, and then they will reward you for that value. Sorry, what was the question? I got
Okay. No, no, that's fine. That's fine. In terms of then, like, I want to move on to like how you've
Oh
kind
yeah,
of,
product release. Yeah, we
yeah,
will we will launch new products, but right now we're just focused on the one SKU. But
yeah, the
there's
one
more in the
scale.
queue.
Yeah, I think it's actually crazy the scale. Do you mind talking about how much you've scaled, or sort of a revenue X
Yeah,
amount? You can list it out if you want.
so I'll look right now. I think we with Amazon we're close to 1 million on Amazon since we launched a couple months ago. But if you look at D2C only since launch, we're at about 14.2 million, and we're averaging about 2.5 a month right now. So
It's actually madness.
yeah,
It's unreal. It's unreal. And honestly, I genuinely say this every single time I speak to like the controversial angles and take, and then the branding, the creative, and how you make the brand come across on landers and PDPs and on site is something I've never genuinely seen. And everyone I've interviewed and spoken to and brands that are scaling aggressively have the things that you've just said, which is product, ops, unbelievable team, and then obviously you worry about then offer and everything after that. But I think that's such a takeaway for everyone is just you have to double down on those areas. But if we're looking at your funnels, which I've showed some of our team, I know they built some, but they're actually laughing every time they're writing them out because they're so controversial. I mean, controversial to some people, to us they're funny, and I'm all for it. Do you think that's had such a massive effect on growth just because of how much people relate to it and they actually laugh?
Yeah, without a doubt. Um, David Ogilvy, I love this line. I say it all the time, but David Ogilvy said you cannot bore your customer into buying. So people don't want to buy something that puts them to sleep. You know, if your brand, if your product, if your marketing has a personality, well then that's relatable. That's human. That's how do you connect with a person looking at a web page? Well, you make them feel the human touch in what they're reading because you don't want to read AI. Oh, here are the 30 statistical facts about this product. Here's what it's going to. No, that's boring, right? We're all humans at the end of the day, and so how do you tap into the human desire for connection and emotion? And so, we know our demographic. They're dudes, hardworking dudes in America. They generally have the same belief, and so we just talk about that in a funny way, in an unapologetic way, and they appreciate that. They're entertained, right? They can go through a landing page and they can be educated on the product, but they can also be entertained. And so if they're bored, they're just going to click off. So you got to find the balance of like, okay, how do we keep this person entertained? It doesn't even have to be humor. Like we're being a little less controversial as we're growing, just because
I was wondering, I was
well,
gonna ask.
you kind of have to. You can't be hyper polarizing forever. You have to find a balance, and so we're maintaining personality, human, authenticity and connection and entertainment without being too polarizing. But it's important that you let your brand be its own person. I don't know if that's a good
Yeah.
analogy, but I mean, like I said, I originally built Menerals for me, and your business is an extension of you. It's a reflection of your humor and your thoughts and your biases, and so that's how I built it to be, and that's what's worked.
Do you think stepping off the controversial takes has slowed anything down? No?
No, no, I've tested a few landing pages that I wrote, and it hasn't impacted anything. I think the most important thing is you don't bore somebody. It doesn't have to be polarizing, but it cannot be boring, right? So maintain the personality and the entertainment, and then remove the polarization aspect, and it would still be fine.
Yeah. And in terms of creatives then, what's kind of been the biggest unlock for you on the creative level? Are you running like, do you have any hot takes on creatives? I know people talk a lot about like, are you doing any founder story creatives, anything like that, or are you kind of trying to stay away from being the
Hot
founder?
take. I rarely look at other ad libraries. I generally don't pay attention to what other brands are doing. I think the best ads that we have had have been really simple, um, simple and or funny. Like people always think that you have to have this crazy. Oh, here's your hook. It can't be more than two and a half seconds, and you gotta go boom, 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 problem solution, value. Like no, like some of the best ads in the ad account were me yapping on a camera, no script, no editing, no literally nothing, just raw person to camera. That's it. Um, because people don't want to watch ads; they want to be entertained. And so if you come off like you're reading a script, and that can work if your script is well written and you can keep the dopamine hit of the everybody has a doom scroll brain right now, so it's like the instant dopamine hits. You can science your way into video retention, and that works. That's not a bad strategy. But for the best ads that we've had, they've been really simple and or funny. Some have been high quality, like very polished ads, but they were really well written and edited. We've had a lot of statics that were just brain dead simple, that were um, just funny, cool. So
Yeah,
I'm not
sick.
really clear what you mean,
The
but
yeah,
don't overthink. Just make good. Just make ads that you want to watch. Really, that's
just
the
make
big
good
thing.
ads. I mean, Kamal, my friend, is so heavy on saying founder ads at the minute. I
They
think
work.
that you've just summed it up. You know, it's and he actually talked to this about when the founder comes on and it doesn't sound natural and they're reading off a script, it's shit. It's not going to work. Do you know? Whereas you just literally nailed it in the head. And I think everything you're saying here is what kind of beats around the bullshit that's on Twitter and all those things at the minute. But sometimes it's just ripping a straight up video off your iPhone, talking about why you created it, why it's funny, why it's good, why it works, whatever it is. People buy people.
100%.
Do you know? People buy people, and that's most of it. Like we test that on a lot of PDPs or landers, which is like sections of the founder, and actually a video of them potentially if possible if they're happy to. But if any founder is watching this and they're not on their ad account, fuck, they are losing money. They are losing
Yeah,
money
if you're
not
gonna talk
running.
about your own product, you got to be enthusiastic. If you're a founder and you can't get on camera and talk about your product, well, then you're just going to get lapped by the people that do.
Get lapped. Get lapped. Is
Get
there
well
have you any plans for any retail scenarios?
eventually. It's not a priority right now.
Nah, just double down on
Retail's good.
D2C.
I've been in retail. It's kind of a headache. It's good for if you're building a business to be acquired. It's very important. But if you're in growth mode, you should focus on one channel, one offer, being the best at it, and then once you're doing a healthy eight figures, then you can think about retail.
Yeah. What's one thing you wish you'd done sooner in this Menerals journey? If there's something that you've realized in the last like 2, 3 months, what's one thing you wish you'd done right from the start? I love asking this question. I think it brings out just a value nugget like that for anyone.
Nothing jumps out at me. Um, Maybe just more time spent on product experience because we have branded mailers, we have a nice bottle, but I think there's something to be said about the Apple experience when you go buy an iPhone or a Mac computer. I mean, I have a stack of Apple boxes right there
Mine's over
because they're
there.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's almost like an art piece, and so I would say I would just probably spend more time building the form of the product to like exist almost as like an art piece or like a reminder because we just have a bottle and a mailer. Like if we had like a cool box or some kind of like anchor item that you're
Yeah.
gonna remember, that probably that because the experience does impact the perceived value of the product. So um, that's probably what I would have done from the start.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere people cut costs at the start, to be fair. I would imagine it's probably something that they have to try and just get off the ground. But I
And that's
remember,
okay. I don't think anybody
yeah,
should invest too much time from day one. But if you're 3 months in and things are working, well then okay, it's time to
double
invest
down.
in the physical experience.
Yeah, and I think that's the hidden improvements of LTV. You know, they're the things that you can't split test. You can't test that as an offer. Like, for example, I have Mac Studio or Mac Display over there, the box. I bought a customized notebook. I have the box up here. Like Aspinall of London. I have one of our clients is a San Francisco coffee distributor, and they sent this big like cardboard box with like the different things and how it's like heritage of San Francisco. Like people remember that Essence Vault, Thompson Carter, sorry, Thompson Carter. Their boxing is absolutely obscene. It's like a premium shoe you've just bought, and it just comes out and all it is perfume. Do you know? It's
Yeah.
something absolutely wild. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of learnings here for brands to be taken, but chat through your exit then, because I think this is something that people probably, as a business owner, are just sitting in their head going, "I would love an exit. I would love an exit. I'm strategically going for an exit." Like, how did that sort of come about, and what are the key things people should be trying to do to actually set themselves up for that?
Are you talking about my first exit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I didn't start that brand with any intention of an exit. I started that brand with the intention of being able to pay myself and just making a little money.
Like
So
us
it
all.
was never, yeah, it was never built to be an acquisition brand from the beginning. But what made it acquirable is being in retail. We had licensing, some really good licensing. So basically, I realized that I didn't want to spend time. I wasn't really passionate about it. It was just it was my first win, so I needed to get my bag and then get out, focus on
Yeah,
something I would prefer to work on. And so it was getting it into retail, getting it licensed, and it was honestly very simple. It wasn't a huge acquisition by any means. It was pretty small, but those were two very important factors. IP, trademarks, retail, licensing, basically moat. Right, the more of a moat you can build, the more of an acquirable asset you have. So for minerals, I mean, we have supply chain moat, um, cash conversion cycle. I wouldn't really say that's a moat. That's more of like a leverage point. But what is something you can build on your business that cannot be replicated? And the more non-replicatable things that you have, the more acquirable it is. And of course, it needs to make money. That's the obvious one. But on top of that, it needs to be fortified like a castle.
yeah, yeah. I think it's so interesting though. It's not something that like recently Cal.ai. I don't know if you've seen that, but that software just got it just exited. Elia pop-ups. They just exited. Um, I think it's something that people see very rarely, but it's something that people are really interested in. It's such a. Do you want to exit Minerals at some stage? Buzz question.
Well, it's not
Depends.
a yeah. It's not something I think about. I think about, and I'm not saying this cliche. It's like I spend the most time thinking about what is our goal, what is our mission, how are we going to get there. An exit is secondary. It would be cool, but it's not a priority. I mean, if I would honestly like to have a business that I never sell. I'd like to own minerals till I'm 50.
Yeah.
Build a household name. Because when you sell, I mean, you sell a part of yourself. Um, when I had my first acquisition, I felt strangely empty for a week. I'm like, I have nothing to
So
work on.
interesting, by the way. A lot of people say that.
I spent 2 years of my life building this thing, and all of a sudden it's gone. It's like you give a child up for adoption, and you get a check for it. So with minerals, I mean, whether I sell or never sell, it's not important to me. I want to have a big impact on the world.
Yeah. It's so interesting though as a founder, you're constantly chasing the next thing, and a lot of that is the future potential, like what if, what if. But every single time you hear someone, and the very rare case of like someone who's just absolutely enjoying life. Like Dave Portnoy stands out to me. I don't know if you know who Dave Portnoy is, but
I do.
he exited and then I think he bought his back and that he's just living on a beach. I don't know what he's doing now, but he's the one that just doesn't give a fuck. But it's so interesting how so many people on the exit are just so fried. But it makes sense. You spend every living minute thinking about this thing and then it's gone. What do you do?
Yeah,
Like so such a weird concept. But do you think that if you were to go back, would you have exited again if you were to redo that sort of
100%. I didn't care about that business all that much.
fair, fair enough, fair enough. What sort of size
I
did
knew
that
it
one
would
get
never
to?
be. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, I work the same amount of hours per day, but am I going to spend my time on a seven-figure opportunity, or do I want to focus on eight, nine, maybe even a ten-figure opportunity? So clearly, the where I'm putting my effort, it's not a great bet. There's better bets to make with my time. So that was when I decided to sell it.
Yeah, so interesting. No, that's sick. In terms of then for brands, like what if you're looking at what a lot of subscription, well, I suppose big pharma type stuff. Do you think that also do you think that you're in a really interesting time in history where a lot of people are actually going against
Like
normal
telehealth and
yeah, yeah,
GLP-1s.
they're going against normal medicine and these types of things? You think that's adding to the scale of the industry?
I don't know. I think people are becoming hyper aware of their health and their body. I also have takes controversial enough that I probably shouldn't share on the podcast regarding uh, big pharma. So
I know, but I think it's just so interesting now though how like you're in an industry that is kind of going after people for their well not going after sorry that's probably the wrong wording but they're trying to people are trying to better their lives and if they can get that for $44 on a subscription why not like
yeah, I mean,
it's
your body is made of minerals. Your body is not made of GLP-1. It's not made of tonka alley and herbs and like there's iron in your blood and calcium in your bones and potassium in your brain. So the zinc is what allows your neurons to fire. So there's a lot of gimmicks and quick fixes out there, but hardly any of it is actually foundational.
and how did you go around getting this type of information? Did you reach out to like certain types of like researchers? Like how did you kind of come up with these parts that are properly part of the minerals product?
Um, Working in it all day, every day. Yeah, I mean that's really the truth of it. You eventually just go deeper and deeper into the product and think about how it connects to the human body and real life and
You can feel that in the funnel though. I think that's like such a unique part of the brand, to be honest. Like, and what do you see if you're looking at your entire funnel and what's kind of helped you scale? What do you kind of see brands do wrong every single time? Like, if a brand owner's watching this and they're struggling with their cold acquisition, they're really struggling with subscriptions. Maybe their product's really good, but they just haven't nailed the funnel because I genuinely think you've one of the best funnels I've ever seen. What is some of the biggest mistakes you see from brands out there that are trying to run acquisition offers and really trying to scale?
I think a lot of people will try to reverse engineer a sale. They'll look at all the tactics, look at other websites. Okay, what part of this lander can I put right? What can I replicate that has a high conversion rate? The the copy and the landers that have always worked best for me are the ones where I would block out everything else. I don't care about advertorial listicle. I don't care about any specific tactical
Yeah, say this all the
parts,
time.
right?
Yeah.
I don't look at what other people are doing. I start with a clean slate. So I used to be a designer, so I'd go into Adobe Illustrator, like a long form template, clean slate, and I would just start writing, start throwing images together, and just look inward, right? So first I would sell to myself. Hopefully I made that clear. I sell to myself first, but by looking inward, I can then think about okay, what do I want to see? What do I want to know? What do I want to read? At what point? What do I want? What do I want to feel? So I reverse engineer myself and what I would want as a buyer before I try to think about okay, I need to have a social proof section here. I need to have a call to action here. No. So I don't know a better way to explain that, but I just try to ignore industry rules because if everybody's looking at the same tactics and rules and landing pages, then everything looks the same. And I don't want to build the same thing as everybody else. I want to build something that's differentiated as much as possible. So, takeaway here is don't try to reverse engineer a sale. Build something that you would want to buy from.
Yeah. And probably to double down on that, when we first worked together, we actually created some landers that were very, very similar. And then once we went outside of the box, one of them is basically scaling with a certain angle that's pretty. There's probably other reason that that's scaling, but I think one of the things that I always say to the team and also to clients is like, it's not the fact it's a listicle, it's not the fact it's an advertorial, which people are so fascinated over. And it's also not the fact that you're trying to optimize conversion rate or these things. It's like the elements within that are what actually work. So the copy, the angle, the offer. Like, stop worrying so much about, oh, we can only run offers on, or we can only run a listicle because Bruins are doing it, or we could like it's their angle. It's the fact that also they're a $500 million brand. Stop copying them, and it's these things that you have to really double down on that are genuinely going to scale a brand. I think brand owners get so lost in the fact that why are you so fixated on this on the type? It's not the type, it's what's in it and how it flows and how you actually break down the buyer psychology to buy a product that you've just hit them with one ad. So that they don't know you. It's so fascinating
Yeah.
how people get so fixated over this. It's actually
And
it's
it's hard
insane.
not to. I mean, there's so much information. There's an overload of like what to do, what not to do. It's I don't blame anybody for trying to model things that work, but ultimately inside the box are where funnels go to die, right? New funnels that work are far away from being in the box or as outside of the box as they can be.
Well, we know that for sure with the one that's kind of doing well at the minute. It's kind of absolutely outrageous. But I think that's the biggest takeaways I think from this is like be unique. Have a product that
Yep,
works.
authentic.
Yeah,
You
have a
authentic
product that
branding.
works. Be authentic, be unique, speak and sell to something that you would get yourself. It makes it easier. I mean, you don't have to do that, but it definitely makes it easier. And you've got
Yeah,
to really understand the avatar. That's my biggest lessons from ever seeing what you do. And I think you've got a very unique skill and not a lot of people have, which is how do you actually break that down into and conceptualize that with copy and design? Because the offer isn't incredibly different, but how
yeah,
you value stack it and everything before it is what I still classify as an offer.
yeah. I mean, I feel like most founders should spend more time thinking about their product, and that's it. The more you just think about what you're selling, the more stuff you come up with. Um, and that's not easy to do. I mean, how often do you want to go sit and ponder, right? There's so many things to do, and there's always distractions in the world, but you have to give your product the time that it deserves. Um, and if you don't, well, then you're gonna have a very surface level explanation to anybody who sees your ads.
100%, 100%. What's the goals this year then? What do you kind of want to, where do you want to take Menerals to then?
Bigger and better.
I love how you're just kind of like fucking chat scale it and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean that's all you can do. I mean, everybody wants to be as big as possible, so we're gonna push as hard as we possibly can. I mean, I don't know where the ceiling will be, but if we could go to a, this will not happen, but like if we could go to 1 billion, we would go for 1 billion in 1 year. But we're just gonna push the ceiling as high as we can.
Love it, love it. Well, listen, we'll end it on that one. Chris, thank you very much for coming on, and for everyone who's watching, I'm sure you'll see more of you and the brand as you scale, and I'm sure there'll be I could genuinely see an exit down the line for you because it's something I've never seen before with a brand. So listen, appreciate everyone listening. Appreciate Chris coming on. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know who you want on. Chris, thank you very much for coming on,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, I was glad to be here, or I'm glad to be here.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Peace.